It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. And now that the College World Series craziness is over, the long lines have tapered down just a little bit to the regulars. I know I ran into a lot of people all over at Quaker Steak and Lube that gave it their first try over at Joe's Karting, and they said, along with the College World Series, I think coming over to Joe's Karting is going to be an annual trip for us, because that's a lot of fun to go over there and just turn some fast-paced karts.
Great place to spend a rain delay.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we got to start today's show with some terrible news. Racing World has been dealing with it for a week. We didn't talk about it last Sunday's show because we had recorded the show before the accident had happened, and so we do apologize if that offended anybody. It was obviously just the way we do the show doesn't make it conducive for us to be able to do that.
Well, plain and simple, right now it's Thursday afternoon, and you're listening to this on Sunday morning, and it's just basically what happened last week, too. So
yeah, and Jason passed away after a terrible accident in a sprint car, and it looked like he was going to hang on for a little bit there. The race team, the family posted that he was stabilized and his heart had started beating in a regular rhythm again. But just shortly after that, he passed away. I don't know if it was Saturday night or Sunday morning, but the Facebook world absolutely blew up with tributes and thoughts and prayers and a lot of supports. The tough thing with Jason is that now he leaves a wife and a little boy behind that, American soldiers, their families have to deal with this all the time. The racing community does a great job with coming together and donating money to be able to help out. I know Stu Snyder and SLS Motorsports were selling decals from Action Signs and Harris decals that all the proceeds were going to go to Bobby and Jack's.
yeah, they're $5 or a Goodwill donation. I've also seen on Facebook where the drag racing communities got involved in it with Cruz Pedregon, the funny car racer, former champion. He's doing signing autographs on like hero cards and other items, from what I understand, and all the proceeds will go to the family also.
It's these times I sat most of Sunday thinking back to the one time we got to meet him and talk to him. We didn't have a lot of experience with him. We were trying to talk about it off the air. I think I might have talked to him while he was at Eagle in 2017, but I just can't quite remember. But we had a great conversation with him in the media center at Knoxville, and probably one of my favorite memories walking away from the Knoxville Nationals. Anytime anybody can beat Donnie Schatz is a good day in my book, and the way he beat him was just the fervor that he went after Donnie Schatz is exactly what you have to do to win at Knoxville, especially against Donnie Schatz.
Well, do you remember as we were standing there trying to cross the track to come back to the media center after the victory lane stuff? And,
I still don't know if he did that on purpose.
Well, it's hard telling you go through this little tiny gate and you start walking down this little ramp, and he just stuck his head through the gate and stood up and, threw his arms up like a victory celebration stuff, and Donnie Schatz was right behind him.
Right there.
And, the fans went crazy. And he didn't have eyes in the back of his head, so he didn't know Schatz was there. That's like we say, if he knew Schatz was there, then it was in your face type deal. If he didn't, then it just, kind of took that timing on.
But it was totally, I think the thing about Donnie Schatz is he's a lot like Kyle Busch. He's never happy when he loses. He's really not happy when he loses at Knoxville because he is so good there. And he was especially not happy because that would have been his 10th Knoxville Nationals, which he ended up getting in 2017. But heading into turn one, I think, is what really made Donnie mad. And we talked to him afterwards. Maybe we could pull up the interview sometime if you guys ever wanted to hear it. Just go over to YouTube and search Knoxville Nationals 2016. I'll have the interview. But I think what he said, his frustration with that race was that they bumped tires going into one. But afterwards, he doesn't blame Jason for doing it because you're going for the biggest win of your life.
And you're blocking. That's racing.
It's absolutely so. Rest in peace, Jason. We we're going to do some fundraisers. We're going to help out with some fundraisers locally. Again, if you want to get a hold of SLS Motorsports and Stu Snyder, they're selling those decals. You can get a hold of those guys. Any Eagle Raceway night, they're going to have those decals available. And thank you to Harris Decals and Action Signs for stepping up and donating that product so that they could raise money and send it over there.
And just another spot that shows you, if you enjoy watching these guys race, if they're anywhere near you, go out and watch the race. These guys leave the world way too soon, way too quickly, and there's no telegram saying it, 90% of the time. Yeah. Some of these guys are lucky enough to have a farewell tour and retire, but in this case, that is not the case. So get out and enjoy your racing.
Absolutely. And you think about, as I look back on it last Saturday night, not last night, but there was a terrible accident in the Sport Complex. I think he was Brayton Thornton. I think he's 14, 15, or 16. I apologize. It's a 3-year span there, but I can't quite remember exactly how old he is. Way too young, and he was pretty shaken up. Not injured, but shaken up by his accident in his Sport Compact. And it was a scary one. It's a video that was circulating around the internet. I chose not to share it on the Front Stretch Facebook page because of the timing with Jason's passing and his death. So, but it goes to show you that it doesn't matter how fast you're going, where you're racing, how long you've been racing, this can happen in a heartbeat. And it's a very scary sport. We talked about it off the air. It's you put your life and limb on the line, and you've got an opportunity to swerve, move, do this, that. This stuff happens so fast that it's in a blink of an eye.
Safety improvements are continuously moving object, basically. They make it as safe as they can, but it'll never be bulletproof, so to speak. People are going to get killed in these cars. The safer walls have been a huge improvement, Hans devices, but people are still going to die in these things. And that's just an inherent dangerous sport. That's all there is to it.
We're defying the laws of physics every single corner. The car wants to go out. We want it to go in, and we want it to stick. And they're really pushing the limits. And every once in a while, the laws of nature push back. And unfortunately, we got to deal with this.
And all every driver wants is more speed.
Absolutely.
So the faster they go, the sanctioning bodies try and slow them down a little bit, but then they just figure out, how to get those couple mile an hour back. And it's going to be a never-ending battle, but they're going to stick around. I mean, nobody's going to quit racing because of this. I mean, the one blessing out of all this is he died doing what he loved.
Yeah,
absolutely. And his wife even said that on one of her posts. So, he died doing what he loved. So you really can't condemn that.
Yep.
And she was very thankful for, the racing family for jumping in and having their back during this bad time.
Again, get more information. We can share it on the the Front Stretch Facebook page, but just go to SLS Stu Snyder Racing and get more information on that and help out for a great cause, because that's something very, very easily you can do. All right, today's show we are going to recap the results at Sonoma. Recap the results at Sonoma and talk about the Pick'ems contest real briefly, brought to you by Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners. And then we'll go into turn number 2. We're going to talk to Ben Schaller. Turn 3, Marco Andretti, the Iowa Corn Indy 300. Pretty sure I screwed that up. Is coming to Iowa Speedway in a couple of weeks. You can get more information on that race and tickets in advance at iowaspeedway.com. We're going to talk to Marco about his 13 races at Iowa Speedway, competing in the Verizon IndyCar Series races. 13 seasons in the Verizon IndyCar Series. And he's been racing at Iowa Speedway ever since IndyCar came there. And then what you can expect this Sunday coming up, I believe that is July 9th is when that race weekend is. So we'll get you more information on that. Turn number 4, we will preview today's race at Chicagoland, and we'll talk a little bit about Daytona because Daytona is coming up on Saturday night. So we've got 2 races before the next show, which we are live next Sunday. All right, let's talk about Sonoma real quick. Before we do that, by the way, if you haven't got your hats yet for the Front Stretch, they're going pretty quickly. I sold a couple of them the other night at Eagle Raceway. A lot of people are really liking them because of just they're really simple, good-looking, sharp hats. And we got to say a big thank you, and I got to correct myself a little bit. Ideal Images, ideal-images.com, located here in Omaha, are the ones that helped us out with those hats. Got us a great deal on them, did a fantastic job on them. I think a lot of people really, really like them. So you can get more information on those by emailing us, or you could just head over to ideal-images.com, and maybe you've got a business or something you're marketing that you want to get information out to. This is a great way.
In the world of $25 and $30 hats, we've got $20 hats. That's
Absolutely.
because the savings they gave to us were passed on to you.
And they didn't just give it to us because we're, some fancy schmancy. This is their prices.
Yeah, we're fancy schmancy. That's what we are. I wondered why they gave us that discount.
So ideal-images.com. If you want to get your Front Stretch hat, you can send us an email at frontstretchradio@gmail.com. frontstretchradio@gmail.com. Well, the normal guys up front at Sonoma were up front. AJ Allmendinger for quite a while was up front, and then his engine done gave out.
Well, and that's exactly what he said. I was listening to it on the radio, and they came on and they said he was coming up through the field. It was right at the start of the second stage. There were 3-4 laps into the second stage, and he had won the first stage but had to pit. A bunch of the guys in the first stage had pitted early, so now they were all up front. And he'd moved up 3 or 4 spots in those first couple laps, and up in one of the turns, I don't remember which turn it was, Jamie McMurray is slowed. He's slowed, and behind him, AJ is slowed, right behind him. And I'm thinking to myself, well, of course.
Yeah.
He's not going to run over him, so he had to slow down, too, in the middle of the turn. And then they said, McMurray's fired back up and driving off, but AJ's not. And then they come on, and they said, well, we know why. And they listened to the AJ talking to his crew, and he said, sorry, guys, I blew it up.
Oh, he did it?
Yep, probably missed a shift.
Yeah, I missed that segment of it. I'd taken a short nap because Adam Gullion went a little long on Saturday night, and I didn't get to bed till 4:30 in the morning because I was editing that interview and getting ready for the. Anyways, woe was me. My life is so tough, isn't it? I had to sit at a dirt track, watch a race, interview drivers, drink some beer, and then go home and sit and edit an interview talking about racing. Anyways,
so you had to sit around to sober up before you could drive home. Is that what you're saying?
No. AJ Allmendinger claims the 38th position on the day of the 38 cars in because he finished number one in stage one. He did end up getting 10 points that went towards
his 11.
The 11 points that he got. Jamie McMurray, on the other hand, came home 37th. He got uno point and walked away with one of the worst scores. Oddly enough, so in the season-long contest, AJ and Jamie were the top 2 picks. 17 contestants in the season-long took AJ Allmendinger, who, like we just mentioned, gained 11 points. 9 people took Jamie McMurray, who gained a single point. Then it was Clint Boyer with 8 picks and 34 points. Jimmy Johnson was 4th with 6 people taking him, getting 42 points. And Kurt Busch, 5 people picked him, 32 points. 4 people took the 48 to win the race in the season-long contest. It was a completely different story in the Iowa Speedway Crewman for a Day contest. 18 people took Martin Truex Jr. to win the race, and he did end up gaining the second most points.
I was going to say, what was the most points? Was it Jimmy Johnson with 42?
Chase Elliott with 48.
Oh, okay, because I knew it wasn't going to be a whole lot because of the way the stages ended up. There wasn't anything close to a sweep, so... I knew the points weren't going to be in the high 50s.
So after last weekend's race in Michigan, there was a solo series leader for the Iowa Speedway contest, and then a 20-way tie for second. We were kind of excited because we were thinking, okay, this is gonna play out a little bit different than we've had in the past. Well, the person that was leading after Michigan ended up taking Kyle Larson, who gained 29 points. So he fell back to 10th, and there is now a 9-way tie for second and a 9-way tie for the lead. So it's quite the bubble up front. And now with 3 races left, I'm kind of worried, is it going to shake out with enough time for 9 people to figure out who's going to win this contest, finish second, third, fourth, and fifth?
It still will because the guy that took Boyer up the front has still got Harvick, and those other 8 people don't, or those other 9 people don't.
Yep.
He's got that ace in the hole yet, and he could have played it this round, but he didn't, and he'd probably been up there because Harvick's points had to be in up right around 40 points, too.
Harvick was 35.
35 is all he had? Yeah, he didn't get any stage points. Or no, he got like 1 or 2 stage points.
So AJ Allmendinger, Jamie McMurray, worst of the 2. Ryan Blaney finished 34th. Bubba Wallace, 29th. Boy, he is struggling as the season has started to progress.
Well, he was going to struggle at a road course.
Yeah.
He's got very little experience at a road course. And, he spun out a couple times. And, but he stayed out of trouble, so to speak. You know, he didn't hit anybody, and he didn't blow the thing up. AJ, he didn't blow the thing up, but well, hey, I'm right. That's who I took.
Oh, okay.
So,
I feel better then.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Honestly, between the two of us, we really don't care where we finish as long as it's in front of each other. Right?
Well, it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah. That's all I care about. And I mean, at this point in time, I can't even beat my girlfriend, so I'm going to lose that fight. Top 10 finishes at Sonoma. Denny Hamlin finishes in that 10th spot. Alex Bowman 9th. Eric Almirola 8th. Eric Jones 7th. Kurt Busch 6th. Kyle Busch with a top 5 finish. Chase Elliott comes home 4th. Clint Bowyer 3rd. Kevin Harvick 2nd. And Martin Truex Jr. gets the win on the season. I believe that is his 3rd win on the season.
Correct.
So, good win for MTJ, a race that I don't think they expected to pull out, but because of I've jokingly called it pit strategy / miscommunication, they ended up getting the win. And no matter how you get it, you got the win. It goes towards the playoffs, and now we're starting to see a little bit clearer picture of where it's going to lay out. But definitely still a top 3. Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch are your top 3 best contenders. But who's going to be that 4th and 5th? It's the 4th guy that's going to peek in and almost guarantee his way into Homestead.
Well, I was reading a stat the other day that this was that right now at this point in the season with so few winners, it's been a long time since they've had this. So they're going to have there's a good possibility that they'll have 10 or 11 people getting into the playoffs off points. Very good possibility. Because
there's so few race winners.
That's what I'm saying.
They're all being hogged up at the front with Harvick and Busch.
Harvick, Busch, and Truex. Between the three of them, you've got most of your race wins there. So
absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for turn number 1. We're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 2. Ben Schaller will join us to talk about his continuing effort in the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series. By the way, if you didn't see the news, more trouble for Kyle Burke Motorsports as the barn that sits next to their
his farm
race
equipment
shop.
Barn.
Right. The farm equipment, or the barn caught on fire, destroyed the farm equipment, and luckily the race operation is still saved. Well, but that's gonna throw you off big time.
They did say there was some damage to some race equipment, but what we don't know. He very well could have had something stored in that barn too.
And that fire happened early Thursday morning, so I think Kyle probably getting a little sick and tired of fires disrupting his race operation.
I had some good insurance. That's what I'd be doing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a break. Ben Schaller just around the corner, then Marco Andretti, and then we preview Chicagoland and Daytona. A lot of show left to go. Stick around here on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Hi, this is David Hyatt, president of Iowa Speedway. Get your tickets for the U.S. Cellular 250 at iowaspeedway.com. We'll see you at the fastest short track on the planet.
Welcome back to the front stretch, rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to have a conversation with a local dirt racer that's racing the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series and the Super Late Model Series at I-80 Speedway. I got too many tracks running around in my head today, and I don't have all my wits with me. Which is
standard equipment there.
Right? Worse than normal, though, is the tough thing. It's worse than normal today. But anyways, Ben Schaller joining us, driving the number 98 Super Late Model throughout the area. Good to see you, bud.
How's it going?
Oh, it's always awesome. Love having you on the show. Love being able to chit-chat with you, and you're always a good interview. So
I try.
Sometimes it helps if you don't, though.
Yeah, that's very true.
Then we get those little sneaky things out of the way.
That's why he's got a can of Monster and not a can of adult beverage with him.
That's right. Then it's, kind of early.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's afternoon.
It is
5 o'clock somewhere.
We talked to you on Thursday night. So, by the way, those of you who are listening on a Sunday morning, Ben's not an alcoholic. We're not alcoholics, although I probably could be in recovery, especially after talking with Adam Gullion, like we hinted in turn number 1. But anyways, leading in the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series, 1 win on the season, 5 top 5s, 8 top 10s in 8 features. You've got an 8-point lead over Kyle Burke, who is coming on really strong right now.
Yeah. It seems though he must have found something that is working well in his car, and they've definitely came on the last few races here, and We've been staying pretty consistent and just trying to change little things here and there because we haven't really been that far off. Obviously, there's a few tenths here and there that we need to make up, but yeah, he's found something.
Well, if you're going to try and stretch that lead out, this would be the weekend. Hopefully that maybe it happened. I mean, again, we're talking on Thursday, and they got 2 races this weekend. But I don't know if you'd heard yet or not, but Kyle had a fire at the
I did see that on Facebook probably about
property,
half an hour ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Probably took his focus a little bit away for the weekend.
Yeah, him and fire these last couple of years has not been the best of friends.
No.
It's kind of a good time of the year to do it if you're trying to find a silver lining in anything, because your farm equipment is kind of sitting as you're just waiting for the stuff to grow and mature and be ready to be picked. So not a bad time for it to happen because you don't need it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if there's any good thing about it, it's not like you're in the middle of harvest or anything like that. Or planning it.
Can you help me out here? And I don't want to get anybody in any trouble, but I heard of some stuff that was going on down at Lakeside Speedway and over at Adams County Speedway with some drivers unhappy with Kyle or some rules to do with Kyle. Can you maybe shed some light on what was going on?
I don't believe the rules were specifically aimed at Kyle. Mm-hmm. I do know that there's a particular engine builder and some of the way the rules were worded left some gray area.
Okay.
And us being racers, the gray area is the funnest place to play. Well, so this the engine combination basically is what the big discussion was about, just due to the amount of horsepower that would be possible with that, with certain changes to basically valve spacing and heads.
Okay.
So it wasn't specifically Kyle Burke's engine that was in question. It was, is this okay? We asked, and my dad always asks before we build anything if that's going to happen. Is this okay? Is this not okay? And the way that we had it interpreted was, oh, this isn't okay at that time, and things kind of got switched around to where we're going to throw some weight on and. Like Joe usually does. We'll try to make it as equal as we can. Change some restrictors here and there. So
it's the thing that I find the most fascinating when drivers don't like something, and for some reason, maybe I just don't have enough experience in this sport, but Joe and Lisa seem to catch a lot of flack for playing favoritism. And in the 3-4 years I've worked at I-80, I God honest can tell you that those that they are closest to as drivers usually get the most scrutiny.
Oh yeah, and I talk back and forth to Andrew all the time, and I did before we'd end up having the same chassis, and that I would not want to be in those shoes because he has no option to really even play in the gray area.
Right.
He needs to be by the rules 100% all the time, and not only that, he has probably one of the hardest judges, which is his dad, right behind him being like, well, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? So, I don't envy that position.
Right.
I mean, they're all really nice people, and they do the best they can.
Well, we've talked about this with NASCAR. There was an entire page left out of the NASCAR rule book one year at Daytona, and a Truck Series team found it and exploited it, and NASCAR made them suffer for it, I think is the best way to put it.
Well, yeah. I mean, they had them every part that bolted onto their truck for 6 races, no matter where they finished, was unbolted after the race.
They tore. They
saw pictures of it from some of my tech buddies, and NASCAR, and they've always been like that. I was at a race with Brendan Gaughan won a race one time with what was deemed a nose. It got through tech because it was legal, if you quote that, legal by the rule at that time, but not within the intent of the rule. And so, he went through that same process. He was teched, and like 2 races later, he was teched for the next 6 races. He crashed out like the 4th lap of the race. They were in the hauler and ready to leave, and they were like, oh, no. You guys got to go to teardown.
I have heard about the big series, and this was years and years ago, where it's still a little bit of an old boys club, where if you might get a little bit more one way or another if you're in with the crowd, but they obviously can't do that.
And you're talking about are you talking about like the Lucas Oil in the World of Outlaws series?
No, I'm talking about NASCAR
Cup series or something.
Bring it back around to what we were talking about with, and I don't necessarily want to make it sound like Kyle Because, unfortunately, I just talked to this with Adam Gullion. When you're found to have something that doesn't conform to the rule book, you're not necessarily cheating because you have found a little something, that gray area that we talked about. So to balance that out, you said that the series is going to make him run a little bit more weight?
It was another, I believe, another 25 pounds on the motor plate, and they changed the restrictor size.
Okay.
So
and the to not change this is saving teams a little bit of money because
the only alternative would be to take that motor out, take it apart, change the heads, and unless they have someone unlike me, which I'm fortunate to have a motor builder, unless they have that situation, that's going to cost them having someone to pull them off. They have to send them to him, or the other guy has to come up here, put them on. And then you run into it. It's a big bill. Yeah, it opens up a box of worms too. Motors are, especially with the way that, they're machined, they're touchy, and it's not too hard to accidentally get something someplace, and all of a sudden the whole thing gets destroyed. So.
Well, and Kyle, obviously, the engine builder, actually. Kyle said, well, here's the rules. Kyle doesn't build his own engines. So I know he's changed engine builders. He's had several over the years. But, the engine builder looked at the rules and built the motor, And if Joe has put a weight penalty and stuff on here and changed the restrictor size, he's trying to deal with it instead of making Kyle go out and spend $20,000, $30,000 to...
Which I know is a big thing that Joe doesn't want to do. He wants to make this the most economically efficient series available.
Yeah, our stuff economically efficient is kind of up to interpretation as well. But the one thing that there's going to be motors that are going to have advantages and disadvantages, but I can honestly say that there hasn't been a race that I've won and or lost due to strictly horsepower.
Yeah.
We're not drag racers. We're on dirt. Get a track that's super slick and dusty. You could have 9,000 horsepower.
It's not going to do you looking good.
It's going to be a detriment, if anything else.
And you talked about consistency. I think back to last year where you were in a points battle at Iowa Speedway with Tad Pospischel. You won more races, but you had more issues, and he ended up winning the championship.
Yeah, that was I had a lot of lost cars is what happened last year. So we kind of had to start over a couple different times. And and the thing with Tad, he was super consistent, didn't win anything, but I don't think he really had anything outside maybe a 7th all year.
Yeah.
And I had, going into the last night with the points lead, I think I had a 16th place or something like that in there. And it's like, if I would have just finished top 10 someplace
that night,
then I would have had, either been in the points lead or really close to it.
What does that do for you in the off season? Do you go back and look over everything for a second time, for a third time? You make sure the bolts are tightened to the right pressure?
They do that every week. That is the off season. That's a weekly deal.
That's pretty normal. No, it's we kind of looked at our season and obviously look and see where you could make things better and what things you think you can improve on, whether it be, trying a little bit something different with the shocks or, springs or, trying a different manufacturer for your chassis, anything like that. So, and we kind of came to the conclusion that, let's try a little bit, try a different chassis manufacturer and see what we learn from that. Never had any issue with Kyle's cars. They're always built well, obviously. And it was just one of those deals like you can't beat your head against the wall doing the same thing all the time and learn anything. So might as well try something that's outside your comfort level. I
kind of equate a chassis to a driver and that relationship a lot like dating. Like you can date a person for a long time and it just doesn't work. Doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make them a bad person. It just didn't work. And it could be the same thing with a driver and a chassis. Kyle can build the best chassis in the world and everybody else can go out there and win with it. Just doesn't fit your driving style the way you like to do these little things that make you a great driver, and so it's time to go check out a different place.
Yeah, and it was just a deal where we thought, for specific styles of tracks that we tried different things and just could not get the car to work on those style of tracks. There were certain styles of tracks where we were lights out fast and no issues whatsoever. So we kind of tried when we were getting and thinking about getting the new MB, I was like, well, here's the questions we need to ask, and what adjustments are you guys making on these, and going through the process, like, well, we'll try this one out, and we should be able to figure it out pretty quick, whether we think it's going to work or not. So
I love you saying that you're going to try it out because I'm equating it in my mind as like buying a house. Like, hey, there's a $150,000 house. I'm going to try it out for a couple of months and see if I like it.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't like the neighbors and I'll just move again.
The one really nice thing about the MB Customs car is that, like, economically wise, they were the least costly out of.
Well, definitely wasn't. I hope it wasn't 150.
No. But it honestly was about $20,000 less than a Longhorn or a Black Diamond.
Well, I was going to say, I know one of the recent Black Diamonds that came into the area. I know the people that were on that one, and I heard the price tag on it. It was like, oh
yeah,
You're also leading in the Gales Gold Rush. Excuse me, you're second in the Gales Gold Rush to Bill Layton Jr. Mm-hmm. What a fun little series that has exploded in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it forces you to go to the track more than once, which is nice. I mean, obviously it makes things even busier with, if you are trying to do weekly and the SLMR and all that stuff. It is cool. I always like going to different tracks and stuff like that. So
yeah. Knoxville eligible drivers, I see you in there. So you're going to be headed to Knoxville for that September 15th race.
Yep, that's the plan. I haven't been there and.
You guys race on the 13th, right? That Thursday? Or do you? No, you race as a support series
it's a support deal. Yep.
For the Saturday night race, right?
Yeah, correct.
That just figures. See the.
I believe there's like a Gales Gold Rush.
You can always hope for a tornado over here.
Shelby before there, so
yeah. The company that I sell for booked a big event that day. A month ago. So after we booked our hotel rooms, made our plans to go to Knoxville Nationals for the Late Model Nationals. I'm like, I can't go now. So
it'll be about like when I won the points championship and actually even go accept my trophy in person. So.
That's true.
And see,
you had a good video though.
I've got Nebraska football tickets that day, but that game's at 11 o'clock.
I should be able to make it.
I think I can.
He'll make it. He'll get one of those 9,000 horsepower engines.
There you go.
I'll just fire up the corporate copter and.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that. The Joe's karting copter. That's going to be a really cool race. I think we talked about it. Talked to you about it with the last time. That'd be a really awesome race to win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to get us there and just to even put us. I mean, I assume there's going to be dirt on dirt coverage of us as well as the Lucas Oil guys. But it's a good thing just to be able to get in front of that kind of crowd and. That track's that's a different beast.
Yeah.
So,
are you taking over 2 cars for that weekend?
We can't. We have to run either the Malvern Bank Series or the Lucas Oil Series. We can't do Lucas Oil.
You can't do
and
both.
Malvern Bank.
Not even with 2 cars.
Nope.
Are they going to do the same thing for the Silver Dollar Nationals?
The Go 50 you can do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you could race the Go 50 for 10,000 and then the Malvern Bank race later that night. Mm-hmm. Are you going to? Maybe
we're
going
to take both of our cars.
You might as well try it for 10,000. I mean,
absolutely.
We're like, I talk to Andrew pretty often. He's like, yeah, I'm going to use the same car. I'm like, I know I had to look at him like he's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're going to pull the spacer off, change your tires in between one heat to the next heat, time trials and whatever, man. Enjoy that.
He's kind of crazy. He'll do it. But
he has 2 cars, so that's why I don't understand.
Can you think of a bigger 3 days of racing in this area?
No,
I mean,
it'll be. Hopefully it's not 5,000 degrees, but already planning on it.
You're already hydrating?
Really, I mean,
exactly.
You could typically plan on middle to end of July being hot, but I know it's the weather, so it's unpredictable. But this year alone, we've had winter went into summer, came back to spring, back into summer for several weeks, back into spring, and now we're kind of in this middle point where it was spring at the beginning of the week with a lot of rain and cooler temperatures, and now it's blazing hot at the end of the week.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, that's just kind of this area of the country. You know, hopefully we don't get snow. That's about all we could hope. Really,
snowmobile races. There we go.
That would be interesting.
That weekend, that one will be big. I obviously hope the weather cooperates so we don't have any of the wet stuff, just so we can get all of it off. And I think this year's turnout's going to be really crazy because I don't know if I heard this correctly, but I don't think there's even a conflicting World Outlaw.
No, there's not. They're not running that race. Can you imagine going 3 for 3 that weekend, taking home 10,000 for the Go 50, 5,300 for the Malvern Bank, and then 53,000 for the Silver Dollar Nationals?
I might have to take a couple days off.
Well,
to recover.
I mean, the way it sounds, it doesn't sound like Bloomquist is going to be here racing because he's talking about going ahead and doing his shoulder surgery
by then.
But here's the thing
so
about
you're
Bloomquist
definitely in
again.
the ball game now.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be too surprised if Weiss wasn't in that car or
Scott,
Landers.
He said somebody's going to be in it.
Scott Bloomquist, I don't care what he says.
He'll be
You
present.
don't believe it until you actually see pictures of him in a sling or something. Even then, I mean, he's the kind of a crazy guy that loves to mess with people. He would take pictures of his arm in a sling and in surgery and post-op, and then he'd show up at the race 2 days later. Oh, just I healed that fast.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
So we're going to have to wait and see.
If he does that, then I'm going to think maybe he did or he would have failed that drug test. If he heals that fast, I'm going to,
Well, from what I heard, he did submit all of his medical stuff from when he went to the hospital and then just got randomly drug pulled the next time out.
Yeah.
So, for what
Well,
it's worth.
when you don't show up to the drug test,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to.
it's tough to deny that there's something's going on, because it leaves an avenue. Anyways, we're talking about you here. Ben Schaller, driver of the number 98 Super Late model. A lot of great sponsors on the side of that car.
Yeah, have Steve's Yard Care, Hins Chiropractic, Dave's Home Repair, Fleet Mark Solutions, Schaller Racing Engines and Shocks, my buddy Justin for Sutter Family Racing. We're very fortunate to have people that, not only give us money, but support what we do too, so.
Very clean operation, too. I think that you guys are kind of on the higher end of the kind of I don't know how to say because then it makes it sound bad for a lot of other people. But dirt racing is it's a dirty event, and you got a lot of dirty haulers and a lot of things that are thrown together. But I think you guys have got one of the more professional operations. You're at the track early, you're prepped and always ready to go. You may not always have it right every time, but you guys seem to have a very professional operation.
Well, as far as being to the track early, that's just something that we started, when I was a small child in go-karts when we were there 5 hours earlier than everyone else. And I know it's probably a little bit of anxiety on Dad's part to get there and everything. And then that just, manifested in me being anxious unless we're there, early enough to make sure we're not scrambling to get out there.
well, that's your habit.
Yeah.
Well,
Comfort zone.
I always try to compare things to my life. Whenever I would do a radio show and I would show up 5 minutes before the microphone was turned on, it would be a terrible show because you're rushed. You can't stop and think about things. But when you've got that half hour, 45 minutes for me to be able to sit down and kind of think about what I want to talk about and plan ahead, it's a much cleaner show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it gives us time to get everything where it needs to be. So if for some odd reason I do tear a nose off the thing, then it makes it, these tools are here. You need to go grab those.
Yep.
Here's where everything is.
Well, I wish we could look into the future and know how you did last night, but we'll say best of luck throughout the rest of the season. I really do hope you hold off Kyle and you can get your first Malvern Bank Super Late Model win.
It makes two
Championship.
of us. That makes two of us.
Because you already got a win on the year.
I was going to say, he hadn't have a win? Come on.
You can see him weekly at I-80 Speedway when the Supers are in action in the number 98 machine. Always do appreciate having you, bud.
Thank you.
We'll be back here on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
This is Richard Childress, and you are listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Had to get to turn number 3, and it's time to talk a little bit different. One of my favorite races. I say this a lot, but this is probably one of my favorite races. It's the Charlie Clark Memorial. Any race at Iowa Speedway, which includes this one, which is the Iowa Corn Indy Car Series, the Verizon Indy Car Series Iowa Corn 300, Sunday, July 8th at Iowa Speedway.
Now, is this not the only race that you actually buy a ticket to all year?
Yes, absolutely. It is. It is. God, that makes me sound terrible, doesn't it?
It's a perk of the job.
You're right. It is. All right. So on the phone with us now, the driver of the number 98 Andretti Herta Motorsports Honda, sponsored by U.S. Concrete. And I apologize. I think I screwed up that car ownership name, didn't I, Marco?
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
it's Andretti Autosport with Brian Herta and Curb Akajanian.
Okay. All right. That's a mouthful. How long did you have to practice that in the mirror?
No, we know those families for a long time.
Well, Marco, talk a little bit about your career. I mean, obviously, you're going to be a third-generation driver. Not going to be. You are a third-generation driver. So the first question that came to mind when we got the opportunity to talk to you was, do you feel the pressure of the Andretti name, or because you've been removed by a generation or two, is it less?
No, it's more. It's double. No, it's something that, I think at a very young age when you first start out, it can wear on you, and it actually did, but you end up, figuring out how to make it work for your benefits and stuff like that, and realize how lucky you are to be in this situation to have a shot at going to win races and do what you love to do. So we're lucky to have the sponsors we do and be in the situation we're in, so it's all good.
And I see that you've got a nice growing real estate business, so there is kind of a plan B if you ever decide, I think I've had enough of living up to the family name.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a very distant plan B. I mean, I have all my eggs in the racing basket, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to give this sport up, isn't it? I mean, it's just so addictive.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's what we love, and we live our lives around it. That's just something for I'm trying to be smart for the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, that's something we don't hear enough of. Being smart,
yeah.
Being smart for the future.
I need to be smarter now too. Yeah,
we all could definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you found success at Iowa Speedway before. You won the race in 2011. Since then, the track has gained a lot more character. It's much rougher,
sure.
and you guys are going just a little bit quicker.
That's for sure, yeah. I mean, we have a lot less drag, a lot less downforce now, so we're really flying into the corners now. So, we used to run flat out there. We're not even close now. Maybe close in one end if everything's perfect in qualifying, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Character is definitely the word. It's there used to be the tunnel turn in 1 and 2 was the challenge with just that one little bump. Well, now that's the easy corner. I think 3 and 4 is very, very bumpy, and figure out how to get through there. I think you're in good shape.
Now, we were just up at Iowa Speedway a couple weeks ago for their opening weekend with NASCAR, and they had the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series both up there, and those guys didn't drive much on the bottom half of the track at all. They were all running a middle to upper groove just about.
Yeah, I think qualifying you'll see us turn down to the line if the back end allows it, and use the whole track. But, yeah, we did a race sim yesterday there. And when we went out in traffic, we just ended up moving up the track, and exactly like you just said, second, third lane.
Now, I remember, Dirk, please correct me because I'm probably wrong on this. I believe the NASCAR Xfinity Series was turning laps around 23, 24 seconds.
24 sounds about right.
You guys are running laps at the low 17s to mid 17s. And that's a difference of, what, the 30 miles an hour?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, our cornering speeds are pretty impressive, and they used to be even more impressive. But now we have the thing so trimmed out there that we don't have a lot of aero grip like we used to have. So, last year we're running flat out. This year's, not even close.
Well, you've got a car making roughly the same amount of horsepower between the Xfinity car and what an Indy car makes, but what's the Indy car weigh? About half as much?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where
and twice as big a tire.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Hey, coming to Iowa, do you ever get the opportunity to go maybe down the road to Knoxville, Iowa, and watch some dirt track racing or experiencing the stuff that Iowa has available to you guys, or are you pretty locked into the track?
Last year I was able to get out Thursday night, maybe. I don't remember what night they were running there, but I went to meet Smoke and watch them run there. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a good time down at Knoxville. It's a beautiful track, and the only other place that I do buy a ticket to the Knoxville 360 Nationals as we're talking about it. So that doubles the amount of places I buy tickets to.
There you go.
Do you have a favorite aspect about Iowa? Do you like the short tracks? Do you prefer the larger or the road course tracks?
I think that's why I love IndyCar. It's so diverse, and you need to be good at all 4 different disciplines, and I like it everywhere. I've had terrible days everywhere and great days everywhere, So I always say it just depends on how your car's handling.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And you got to figure out how to handle those those bumps like you were talking about coming out of turn 4 because that can really upset your car. And it doesn't just upset you for the straightaway. You're now subsequent to getting passed for, another lap or so until you get your wheels back underneath you.
Yeah, I mean, that place is pretty unique. I always joke, but I'm kind of serious. It feels like a circle, not an oval.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like you're turning all the time.
I can't tell you the number of times I've sat in the grandstands and just kind of my jaw dropped at how – it sounds so dumb to say, but how fast you guys are going all throughout the track. Like you're used to hearing the NASCAR stock cars lift, going into the corner, maybe even break it a little bit, carrying it through, and then picking the pace up. You guys are just open pretty much the whole time.
Yep. No, exactly. I think that's where the difference is in the two disciplines for sure.
Well, the front stretch is just it isn't a straightaway. You've got the back straightaway, and then you've got the front stretch because it's a D-shaped track. So your analogy of almost turning almost the whole way, you probably hold the steering wheel straight for maybe 2 seconds on that back straightaway, but that'd be it.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's actually quite a physical track too, just because of the amount of loads there, and it's constant, like you say.
How much does the July heat in Iowa factor into your prep for Sunday morning?
Well, actually, I think we had a pretty representative test day there yesterday. It was pretty warm, mid-80s, and the track temp was way up there. So I think it'll be, we were pretty good yesterday, so I think it'll be very similar, hopefully.
How did that test roll out for you?
Yeah, like I said, we were pretty good. I was third quick there, and that was without the last set of tires. So very happy. Had a pretty good long run, ran about 70 laps, so all good.
Good to hear. We'd love to see you up in Victory Lane. You got a lot of stiff competition to get around to find your way into Victory Lane, though.
Well, hopefully they got to get around me. That's the plan.
Is qualifying really important at Iowa Speedway, or is it because it's a short track you can make your way through the field pretty easily?
I think track position anywhere is awesome, but I think there, with the amount of degradation because of how trimmed we are, I think you can start anywhere and win. I think I was 17th when I won there, so you can still make it happen.
All right, Marco Andretti, driver of the number 98 U.S. Concrete car in the Indy Car Series. You can see him at Iowa Speedway come up Sunday, July 8th at 1 o'clock. That's Central Time for the Verizon Indy Car Series Iowa Corn 300. Man, good luck to you. We really do appreciate your time today.
All right, thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, and by the way, we want to make sure and send our love and prayers to your Uncle John, who's battling cancer. Hopefully he can kick that in the butt, and we can see him back at the track sometime soon.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marco. Have a great day.
You too.
Good luck, Marco.
Bye. So that's Marco Andretti, driver of the number 98. Third-generation driver. He's synonymous, and the Andretti name is the Earnhardt name, is the Force name. It's
arguably
the Manning name.
Arguably the biggest name in IndyCar racing.
Yep.
Yeah, between that and Unster, pretty much, you got it covered.
I can't tell you guys this enough. When I give my recommendations, I try to be as much like Paul Harvey, and I try them, I true them, I make sure I would endorse them. And the Iowa race, the Iowa IndyCar race, is one of those races you have to go and see. Now, I'll be real honest with you. Last year's race was a little rough to watch because Joseph Newgarden just won out and took him to the woodshed. And maybe that was 2 years ago we went and watched that race, but typically that's going to be a very fast-paced race that you've got to have race radios to understand what's going on because they change positions so fast that you need to hear the announcers to be able to follow what's going on. But what an amazing, exciting race. Great weekend. And by the way, you can pick your tickets starting for just $20 for adults at iowaspeedway.com. Click on the race schedule and go to the Iowa Corn Indy 300, the Indy Iowa Corn 300, and click buy your tickets. They've got a chart there. You can pick however many tickets you need. You can pick your bracket, and then you can go from there and pick your seats. But what a great racetrack. I love Iowa Speedway. It is my favorite NASCAR track. Kansas being second, obviously, because we're very loyal to the ones that take care of us. But Iowa is definitely a track. Speedway? I thought, dang it, I'm in trouble with the Kaziskis again. Thanks, Dirk. Got me in trouble there.
No, you got yourself in trouble. I just reminded you that you're in trouble.
But anyways, get over to the Iowa Corn 300. Watch the Verizon IndyCar Series. Don't watch it on TV. Racing does not translate on TV. The announcers don't get into it. There's no feel. There's no smell. There's no live action. Get over to Iowa Speedway Sunday, July 8th for this race. It's a 1 o'clock start. You'll probably be done by 3:30 or 4. You can head back over to Omaha, be home by time for supper. So what a great weekend. I know my girlfriend and I are trying really hard to get over for that weekend. We're going to take a break. We'll come back at turn number 4 on top of previewing today's race at Chicagoland and Saturday's race at Daytona, we're also going to give away a 4-pack of tickets to Hairball at the Adams County Fair. It's the ultimate 80s rock and roll tribute band, and that's going on July 9th at Adams County Fair. So make sure you be listening for that. That's going on Monday, July 9th is when that race is, or that concert is. Hairball, the ultimate 80s tribute band. We'll get you information on how to win those tickets coming up here in just a little bit in turn number 4. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
This is Tim McCready, driver of Sweeteners Plus number 39, 2017 Silver Dollar Nationals champion. And you're listening to the Front Stretch.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up on the Front Stretch. Appreciate everybody joining us today. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always catch a replay on our YouTube channel when it's recorded shows like today is. We will post the show at about 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. The next 3 weeks, we will be live to recap the results at Daytona, Kentucky, and the Silver Dollar Nationals. So that's our next 3 races. We're going to be live.
Busy.
Absolutely, and I love it too. I mean, what a great time to be busy. But those shows will get posted sometime mid-morning to early afternoon on Mondays when we get it over to our internet people, which is Creative Element. By the way, if you're looking for anybody to do any internet work for you, talk to Creative Element. They do a fantastic job for us.
And if for some reason you don't see a posting or can't find it, go over to the Facebook page and send Dan a little message. Hey, where's this link for this week?
How many times do you have to message me? Stat pack for today's race, bud? I'm like, just rolling out of bed Sunday at 2 o'clock. Okay, let me get that over. Yeah, sorry. But I want to say a big thank you to our 2 interviews today. Ben Schaller for joining us, driver the number... Oh, not going to say that because that's our trivia question.
Nope.
And Marco Andretti.
Driver the number... Oh,
yep, can't say that either because it happens to be the same number. Here's your trivia question, 402-573-0590. That's the number you got to call, and the first person to answer this question, what car number does Ben Schaller and Marco Andretti drive? They race the same car number, and we did that on purpose.
Yeah, we did it on purpose.
We're going to take credit for that. 402-573-0590. Get over to the phone lines today, and the first person to answer the trivia question, what car number does Ben Schaller and Marco Andretti drive in their respective series? You're going to win a 4-pack of tickets to Hairball, which is the ultimate 80s rock and roll tribute band at the Adams County Fair on July 9th. Actually, it's at the fairgrounds on July 9th. So make sure you get a hold of us on that and get the tickets, get the answer correctly, and we will get a hold of you on Monday with the way to get the tickets to you. All right. Again, thank you to Ben Schaller and Marco Andretti for joining us, and hopefully somebody won tickets today. Let's talk about Chicagoland because we got just a couple of minutes left before we got to wrap up today's show. Chicagoland used to kick off the playoffs. Now it's midway. Well, it's a couple of races still to go to the playoffs. I think race number 17 on the schedule, so we got about 9 more races until we wrap up the schedule. This year, Indy is going to wrap up the regular season, and Las Vegas is going to kick off the playoffs because we had a little bit of a jostling of the schedule in the offseason. But looking back at the race results, most of your playoff contenders at Chicagoland last year finished in the top 10, except for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who came home 25th, Casey Kane, who came home 21st, Austin Dillon 16th, and Ryan Blaney 11th. Then you had your top 10, Jamie McMurray, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski, 10th through 6th. Larson got a top 5 finish, then Denny Hamlin in 4th, Kevin Harvick in 3rd. Chase Elliott brought it home in 2nd, and Martin Truex Jr. got the win on the day. After finishing 10th in Stage 1, 3rd in Stage 2, Martin Truex Jr. brings home 49 points, but the big winner of the day was Chase Elliott, winning Stage 2, finishing 3rd in Stage 1, and taking home 53 points on the day.
But I do believe he caught an L1 penalty and lost like 25 points due to that little tape on the spoiler. I believe that was at the Chicago race last year.
And while he did do well, I would be a little bit cautious to pick him for today's race because Chevy has started to show signs of getting that new car under control and starting to find some speed, but I don't think I would use any of my Chevy picks quite yet. I think I would hold on to him for maybe another 5 or 6 races.
Well, like I said, Kyle Larson, has had some good runs. Jimmy Johnson's starting to show his head every now and then. So, you could still take a Chevy driver, but there's, I think, a little bit better place to take some of those guys.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think I would use them later on in the year rather than trying to cash in on them now, because I think they'll be stronger as we get closer into the playoffs and closer to the playoffs, which is only, like I said, 9 races away before we lock up the 2018 playoff contenders. Well, like we said, we've got 2 races to go before our next show, which is going to be live next Sunday, and Daytona is going to be our next race as we go under the lights for
400 miles.
For 400 miles for the race at Daytona, and a tough race, one that Tony Stewart has won quite a few times. He has won several races at Daytona. It's always been the July race, and I don't believe he ever won the Daytona 500. So it's a little bit different of a race because just taking away that 100 miles really does shake things up a little bit.
Well, that and it's run at night to obviously try and beat some of the July heat in Florida, and so it's definitely a different characteristic between the track and the car at that time.
Top or worst finishers for this race at Daytona last year underneath the lights. Let's see. Joey Logano finished 35th. Martin Truex Jr. 34th. Kevin Harvick 33rd. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 32nd. Brad Keselowski 31st. They were all involved in accidents. Then there was another group of guys that were involved in accidents. Larson, Kurt Busch, Kenseth Blaney, Patrick Hamlin, Elliott, all involved. Let's see. Hamlin was the last that was involved in that. Chase Elliott finished 22nd. Kyle Busch 20th. Landon Castle got himself a 19th place finish when he was racing for the 34, so hopefully he could do some magic in the 00 car at Daytona. Your top 10 finishers: Chris Buescher brings it home in that 10th spot. Eric Jones in 9th. A.J. Allmendinger in 8th. Brendan Gaughan, who was running a one-off race in the Cup Series, finished 7th. David Reagan 6th. Ryan Newman came home in the top 5 spot. Michael McDowell in 4th. Paul Menard in 3rd. Clint Bowyer in 2nd. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. brought it home for America at that race.
Win number 2.
Absolutely. So that's how they fold out for Daytona. The coverage has switched over to NBC, and unfortunately we got the word earlier this week through the NASCAR News headlines that sounds like Darrell, Mike Joy, and Jeff Gordon are going to be returning for the Fox broadcast next year. I've got no problem with Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon, but the Wallace brothers, or the Waltrip brothers, I would be perfectly fine if I never had to see them on my TV screen again, but that's just my personal opinion. So coverage kicks over to NBCSN for today's race at Chicagoland. If you're involved in the Pick'ems contest, all the picks are due by 1:30, and if you're involved in both contests, make sure you submit picks for both of them, and then we are live next weekend after the race at Daytona on Saturday night. That's going to do it for us today. We do appreciate everybody joining us. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always head over to YouTube. And if you want to catch today's action, you don't happen to have NBCSN, you can always go over to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. They have every NASCAR race on the big screens in the Brickyard, and they show a lot of the MAV TV Lucas Oil coverage on the big screens throughout the week as they are broadcast on MAV TV. So if you don't happen to have either of those stations, make Quaker Steak and Lube your home for all the racing action. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We'll do it again all next weekend live and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as they always like to say. Right?
Well, I don't have a bushy tail, so I might have some bright eyes that morning, but the bushy tail, we're going to have to wait.
You're just going to have to wait and see. Thanks for joining us. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.